We use SubmitHub as our tool to take in music.
Just showing folks as well, SubmitHub is like a platform where you can submit your music to different bloggers. You can basically, bloggers will have like themselves registered on here with the type of music they listen to and all that kind of thing. And you, I think they have a free tier, which I mean, it's worth like paying for the paid tier. And it's basically like a kind of way to streamline getting your music to blogs and playlists and that kind of stuff. Is that a fair kind of description of SubmitHub?
Yeah, totally. And SubmitHub is actually like it's really like damaging to your ego if you're doing it yourself.
God. Yeah.
I would almost recommend giving the login to a friend and letting them manage it for you, because I promise you, like with every song I've ever submitted, I've gotten maybe 1 to 3 outlets and 40 outlets saying no thanks, don't like the vocals, bad fit, like sounds okay. Like it's just kind of like you're about to put out a song and then you're reading all these email chats about like how much they don't like the song. And so when I respond for Lately FM, since I've been on the artist side of it, I try to be like really like, hey, this sounds great, the vocals are awesome, I know it's going to do well, but this is just not a genre that we typically take.
Right.
Because that's usually the case. Like we're kind of specific just because of like how people on the blog, like what they enjoy, you know, and what Kevin and I enjoy listening to.
Yeah. I mean, I briefly ran a first version of my label a couple of years ago and was submitting stuff for artists to SubmitHub. And I found like, yeah, you submit to 40 or 50, maybe get up to 3 placements. But it's that whole thing where if you're using the paid tier, it's important for people to understand as well, like the people you submit to, if they review it on the paid tier, they're obliged to reply to you. It's like that's kind of part of the contract. So
well, you'll get like pinged from them if you're not, because if you don't reply, they have to refund the artist.
Totally.
The credit.
So yeah, you can imagine for someone sitting there and going through like, I don't know, hundreds of things in a day or whatever, and they're getting like all worn out and jaded. And also like when you're discovering like, well, which blogs actually are on the wavelength or which reviewers, I think that must be such a big part of the process, is actually figuring out where your stuff is a good fit. And I really appreciate that you mentioned that.
And I think the biggest thing on SubmitHub, I think, sorry to cut you off, is like the most important things are, like as a blog, I'll tell you, because I have a ton of submissions to go through today. But I think most of them don't even know Lately FM. They just like click down the list and just hope. I try to submit to blogs that I think are going to work. But the biggest thing is your artwork. Like if I find a really, really great album art, I'm going to listen to the song. And that's kind of huge because it's the first thing we see. Like I saw this incredible artwork from this label called Z Tapes this week. And even before I listened to the song, I just like knew I was going to like the song. And so that was kind of
interesting.
Cool. And then
can we dive into that? Like is there a type of artwork that you see and you're like, oh my God, like, is it like if someone's just like put black and white text on Keynote, are you just like, you know?
Yeah. Like I respect like minimalism, but I think like the artwork that you send is going to match the sound. And I can usually tell like it's weird, but I can usually kind of tell what kind of track it's going to be with the artwork and the title of the song. Like all these songs live in different like fields of like the visual aesthetic that ties to the genre. And it's kind of an interesting thing if you're talking about like your artistic license. Like it's funny to think of the music you're making almost will also match with the types of visuals that you enjoy. So
I think it's something, you know, we rarely talk about as like music producers, but it's really important. And incidentally, folks, on Complete Producer Network, there's like a visuals, graphic design, branding, and styling topic. Because I think it's really, really important that we talk about that and we're aware of it. And you can also see like, you know, when there's like Lida Pimienta is an amazing example. She like literally went to art school. So you see artists who are amazing musicians and visual artists, and like what an asset that is to be able to build out both sides.
I always think about Chaz from Tori Moa, like his design work and the like merch that he makes. I'll buy his merch because I like him as a designer, not even just because I like his records. I never want to deliver merch for a high price where someone didn't want to wear it because it wasn't like comfortable, you know, or like didn't fit right, you know.
But in terms of like your point is like when you're going through submissions, I mean, how many will you have? Is it like just a massive long list of stuff and you're kind of saying anything that will immediately give a good impression of the music is actually quite beneficial?
Yeah, they put it anything like that. And then at this point, we kind of know which artists we've worked with in the past. And kind of if we see their release come through, like we kind of know that it's going to be something that we're into. But to this, it's interesting too though to note, like this week I found for our playlist in October that came out last week, like a lot of the songs on the playlist were free submissions.
Okay, great.
I don't just listen to premiums, you know, like right now I have 2 premiums and 34 standard submissions to go through. But I know in those standards, just from looking at these photos and titles, like that there's going to be some cool ones. And the genres are really important. And like the artist sounds like are really important. So yeah, I think it's a great tool. I will say, like, I attribute some of my listens on Divorce Court for sure to SubmitHub, because I was able to land on a couple platforms that their playlists then influenced a couple other really nice playlisters to listen to the music and put on YouTube.
Kind of domino effect kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a good tool. If you're affected by negative comments, let someone else do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's just really why I wanted to mentioning that and just be really clear. Like, if you go into it and like expect, you know, that people are gonna like say some terrible things or whatever, but just like, you know, just go like it's kind of like the signal to noise ratio or whatever. But yeah, I think that's a great idea about having someone else go through it for you. Can I ask you about like the sounds like thing, right? Because I'm sure anyone who's uploaded like their own music to this kind of a platform and then gone, well, what do I sound like? I mean, I guess maybe with your background and really having a clear sense of the types of music you like, that you were blogging about, that you kind of were letting consciously influence Divorce Court, maybe was that a bit easier for you? But nonetheless, do you have any advice, like, if people are trying to figure out that sounds like thing? I mean, the flip side as well is like I make so much music, I'm actually very rarely listening to music as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like, silence, so, right?
Do you have any like tips on that side?
Yeah, I don't think you have to listen to the song and say, this sounds exactly like this artist. I think what you should do, and what I do, is I think, who are the top 3 artists that influenced me or have influenced me? Even if I know, like, this song doesn't sound like this artist, I know that when I listen to that artist, someone else who listens to that artist might also feel those feelings when they listen to my music. You know, so, because I don't think I sound like anyone, and that's not on purpose. I just can't. Like, everyone has their own sound. And although in the beginning I would have loved to sound just like this, and this, it was a hard thing to grapple with in like 2 years in, to be like, man, this is just my sound and I have to be okay with it. And I hope people like it. And if not, I'm just going to keep doing it. But I think you have to accept early on to be like, I don't sound like anyone. The music I make is not the music that I always love to listen to. It's different. Like, it comes out differently because it's coming out from within my brain, basically.
Right.
Maybe that's too like meta, but
no, it's really interesting. Yeah. I mean, because I think this whole question of like the different situations you can be in as an artist, and how do you make a first impression when you're trying to, you know, find the people who can actually have a positive impact on getting your music heard, and how can you present yourself? Like, you know, I've worked behind the scenes making records, but I've had, you know, if someone sends a letter to my management or to me saying like, hey, here I am, this is my project, I do this, I'm trying to do this is where I'm at in the whole process, here's a playlist and what we're trying to do this, and we would love you to come in and bring this to the table, or this is an area where we're not sure where to go, then that is like so much that I can actually respond to. Whereas I've had people going like, yo, I just finished an EP, let me know if you resonate. And it's like, what the hell am I going to do with that? You know, so as someone, do you have any like best practices you could suggest to people, more putting on your kind of reviewer, sorting through stuff hat, like advice for people on that side?
I think the middle ground is important, right? Like, say enough, but there's no time to, like, it's not, you know, you're not getting paid like very much. It's like cents on the dollar, right, to do these reviews. And Lately FM is not a moneymaker. Me and Kevin just do it because it's fun, and the artists that we work with are really cool. But I don't want to read like 3 paragraphs in an email about. I don't like copy pastes. We get a lot of PR emails,
right?
And it's like a copy paste and all this stuff. And I feel like the only thing that like a outlet wants to feel like when they read your email is that you know who they are and that you know why you're sending it to them specifically, and not just that you hit reply all to like 40 of the last outlets that you use. And I know it's harder for the person sending it out, but I'll handwrite emails. Like there's this really great YouTuber that posts some of my music named David Dean Burkhart, and like he's huge and I love his selection, and whenever I get a track on there, I'm stoked. I'll send him an email like asking how he's been, telling him, you know, how grateful I am that he posted this song on this date. And it's not phony, like that's my real gratitude, and that's just me trying to be honest, instead of just being like, new track from Divorce Court releasing this day, click here, you know, like
right.
That's not gonna like feel personal to anyone.
Cool.
And at the end of the day, music listening is like pretty personal. And so even if you're on the reviewer side, so I try to just be as human as possible. Is my biggest thing. And don't make it too long, like 3 sentences.
3 sentences.
3-4 sentences. It feels good to me.
And what are the things that you think, like, if there was an ideal email submission for you, if we like, what would it have on there? And I know there's no one size fits all, but let's just run with a hypothesis.
Human language, like, hey, like in the subject line, even like, hey, lately, here's a new like surf rock jam from Colombia-based artist. This, hope you dig it, or something shorter. But
right. And
then in the body of the thing, like, give me a link and tell me a little bit about when it's coming out and what they've done, and I'd love to listen to it. Like, but when it's like this long, I don't, you know, like.
Do you get like an immediate like, oh God, or you expect me to read that before you've even hit a thing, like just like a subliminal kind of reaction? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's almost like if you're sending someone, and I'm not like a music industry person, so I'm probably like, real PR people are probably like, ugh, this guy's so dumb. But if you're sending a random email to someone you don't know, you can't expect that they're going to care about you. Like, you almost have to earn their care and earn their trust by like creating some sort of personal connection, or just being normal and like sending like a handwritten. It's almost like, would you rather get like a handwritten letter or like a postcard that's been printed, that's like pre-sorted from DirecTV that says like, sign up now? Yeah. You know, so I don't know, but it's hard. If you're a big PR firm, you can't do that every time. But when you're doing it all yourself, like with these smaller artists or with Divorce Court, I do everything myself, so I can expect myself to do these. But if I had like a PR agency, I wouldn't call them and be like, you're not making the emails human enough, you know? Right. But that's the glory of being a DIY artist.
Totally. But you do hear so much about, like, you know, for journalists and reviewers, if they actually get the feeling that the artist themselves has written stuff, they're way more likely to open it or engage with it than if it's just like a copy paste. And actually, like, a funny aside, there's been, you know, on Complete Producer Network, I've noticed a couple of people have just like in the About Me and Why I'm Here stuff, they've just pasted in their generic artist bio.
Yeah.
And it's written in the third person when the thing is like about me, and it's like, oh, that's not really going to connect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, artist bios are always hard for me. Like, I don't. Yeah. When you asked me to send you one, I just wrote it out right there because I was like, what am I doing right? You know? And I'm not going to talk about myself in third person. Like, you're not getting it from my fake manager. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah, taking me a while to, like, I think I keep flip-flopping back and forth in the first and third kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like early internet, it was
like you hit a certain level, right, where it would probably make sense. But
well, kind of, yeah. I mean, like, say on my management's website, it makes sense that their bio about their client Damian is like, you know, third person, but then, you know, my really basic personal website, I wound up, you know, it was in third person in like 2005, because at that point I think the internet, we still thought it was meant to be like a magazine. Do you know what I mean? And then at some point you realize, like, well, if you've got a website, you've put it there, haven't you? You know, so
you're paying someone every month to use the website, right? I did this Kickstarter campaign for this speaker company in like 2012 that I was doing videos for, and the minute that the founder changed his emails to like be from his first name was like when the Kickstarter got funded. Like when people started getting inboxes from this dude's name at this, like suddenly people were clicking through, and some companies do that really well, but some companies, you can tell it's like a tactic.
Wild. Anyway, but it's a really interesting concept of, like, you can just very genuinely be yourself on the internet and kind of connect with people. And, you know, what I'm leading this back to with Lately FM and the fact you're doing music and us talking about these things from the two sides is ultimately, like, I think you keep saying that thing about like speak like a human, like be yourself, and actually like make a human connection. Because we all know it's coming, it's like a one-to-one thing. It's not like via a billboard in Times Square or something like that.
And that's the biggest thing with like documentaries, right? Like when you're interviewing someone, it takes a little bit of time to get them comfortable and to like kind of guide them into a place where they feel like they're being 100% genuine. And that maybe is like something I've learned from that, you know, it's just like to be vulnerable and genuine and just be a human being, because I think the biggest mistake we can make is like assuming that everyone is out to get us or hates us right away, right? Like,
can you unpack that a bit more for us?
I feel like, I mean, this year especially, I've gone through this, like, I mean, with so much disdain in the world for everybody else. Everyone hates everyone else in 2020. Like, so-and-so is not distancing enough. I can't believe they went to this place. So-and-so wants to vote for this person. They said this. And it's like, I mean, we don't have to feel these negative feelings towards everybody. And maybe we'll all be a little less guarded and ingenuine if we don't assume that everybody else dislikes us. Because, I mean, I don't think most people aren't walking around every day thinking about, like, how much they dislike everybody. Most people, right? Like, probably the majority of people are just like, they're not even thinking about other people. They're just thinking about how to get through their own day. And I think once you realize that people generally don't care about you to as deep as an extent as you think, it helps you to release and kind of just be like, all right, I'll just do whatever I want to do because everyone's wrapped up in their own thing anyways. And it's hard to say, like, it's hard to explain I hope that makes sense.
Well, it's like people are indifferent in a benign way, right? Like it's a very neutral situation, and I think, yeah, like you're saying, they've got their own stuff to think about. No one's going to think about your music or your art or anything to the same amount.